Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, April 27th. And again, this is the show where we bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside potential. Companies going after massive market opportunities at a key inflection point and with multiple catalysts in place to ignite shareholder value. And we're back with Nova Mentis, NMLSF, Will Rascan, the CEO. Will, welcome back.
Thanks, Jack. Good to be back.
So, Will, in the opening, I just said one of the things that we look for with the stocks that we bring onto the program is, again, having multiple catalysts which can, really unleash shareholder value. And it's amazing. Just the other day, you announced this news that, I think came like kind of out of left field, that you have this AI technology, diagnostics technology that you're going to be spinning out. So I don't think anybody, I think 99% of investors following Nova weren't even aware of this. I know we've alluded to it a little bit, but give us details. Exactly what is it that you have and why are you spinning this out?
Yeah, well, so high level, without getting too much into the science weeds, and that's where Marv can sort of give more depth on it. But we announced this patent filing November 2021. This was something developed by Dr. Hausman. Marv, as we all know, you've been on your show. It's a 52 gene panel that basically will provide pre and post analysis of how a psilocybin drug is reacting with that patient. So we've been using it, and this is a cheek swab scenario. So there's we've been told through a lot of interviews that trying to take a blood sample with an autistic patient is almost impossible. So through Marv's development, we've got this. It's just a quick swab of the cheek, and through that saliva analysis, it basically, gives us all this data. And what do you do with that data? Well, that's where our special advisor on the board here is Kyle Lambert. He's a director of data science at Nike, also formerly of Intel. And so he's an artificial machine learning, expert. So with all this data, you've got to make sense of it. So through the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning, that's where, a fellow like Kyle will be able to tell us, the effects of that drug pre and post use.
Okay. So basically, from what I understand, if I recall my conversation with your chief medical officer, Dr. Marvin, is that essentially this mRNA technology, this diagnostics technology that you have, again, it's a novel technology. Nobody's ever done this before, but essentially it allows you to, to get these biomarkers whenever you're doing any of these kind of, neurological tests. Usually people up till now, we've been, everybody's relied on kind of what behavioral data, which is, really very subjective, right? Like it's not pure science. It's like, whatever somebody, monitor. So it's almost an opinion in a way. We're here for the first time, your technology, this mRNA technology, it shows these biomarkers, which actually now we have, real, absolute objective data.
Right. Well, it just adds further value and credibility to what we're doing. As an example, with the Health Canada trial, there's long-standing, recognized behavioral testing that's done for patients, autism and Fragile X and what have you. ADHD is another. But we can further sort of complement the use of our psilocybin drug with some hard biomarker data. And so how do you do that? And that's, Marv's developed this, and we've it's patent pending. So yeah, it's exciting for sure. And that no one else is doing it. And subjective analysis aside, you feel good, you feel bad, you feel more social, what have you. But what is actually going on in the body, and that's when it comes to drug development, and when it comes to getting a drug approved through whether it's the FDA or Health Canada or what have you. That data combined with the subjective behavioral analysis is really going to sort of separate us from the crowd.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And so the name of the company that you're going to be spinning out, or this is what we have so far, is it's Swab AI Diagnostics, Swab AI. So now, so the next question is, what are the other potential applications, and when can we expect to see, I guess the next thing is going to be the transaction. What percentage, how much are people going to be getting if they're shareholders of Nova? Like how many shares of the Swab
Well,
will they get?
I think that's the actual dynamics of the SpinCo itself is premature to say at this point. I think what we're doing, we just wanted to let the market know that, hey, we've got this technology. We announced it a year and a half ago. We've been using it as part of our observational study platform. And we will be using it as part of our analysis of our Health Canada trial. And so the SpinCo aside, what we're trying to do is put, we've got this technology. We're going to use it, and we want to create shareholder value. In that, I think, as a sector, the psychedelic sector is kind of all tarred with the same brush here. And if we're able to take something outside of that sector and become more of a diagnostic tool, it could be for psilocybin, it could be for other psychedelics. We could license this technology to, say, ketamine clinics, and they want to see what is the end sort of biomarker results of the treatment from ketamine treatment. So there's a lot of opportunities here that we're just kind of scratching the surface on.
And it makes look, I think it makes sense to spin this out because it's really it's almost like the market wants a pure play, right? Investors really want a pure play, and they really do want a pure psilocybin psychedelics biotech play, which is Nova. And it makes sense to actually to spin this out, especially maybe, I don't know, or do you plan to maybe add some other things to it, so kind of to beef up the spin out, like, because it's going to be,
the greater the valuation, the more benefit is going to be for the shareholder of Nova when if and when they were to receive that sort of SpinCo dividend, right? So obviously the more robust of a business plan we put together, the better, for sure. So we're having active discussions, because at the end of the day, Nova's a small team, and so we can't bite off more than we can chew. So part of those discussions are, can we bring in other technologies, perhaps a synergistic type of relationship that comes in with some top end management that can kind of take this to another level and make it a success. So there's only so much we can do as a small team, but
no, it's good, because I mean, look, the thing is, you guys have done a great job so far. Again, getting what's been done over the last year, getting this accomplished, getting right to this phase 2A clinical trial, which we're going to be talking about for the psilocybin for FXS autism. But yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to spin this out. I guess we'll get more details later. By the way, we have some great questions coming up. I want to get into the questions in just a little bit. So bottom line is, we should be getting details. I guess it's not going to be happening right away. This is going to be a process over the next months, right?
Well, yeah. Well, we want to just let the market know that hey, we've got this technology. We feel quite good about its progress and how we're currently using it with the observational study. And it's like, what can we do with this? And so it's like, hey, well, it's buried as a value within the company. Yeah. It's not getting any recognition. So we're sort of the press release. We're basically telling the world that, hey,
it could be if it's done right. I mean, this AI business could be worth more than the current market cap of Nova right now. I mean, the market cap of Nova is what, like 8 million, 7 million? I mean,
well, you just have to look at some diagnostic related companies, upstarts, whether it's type of an assay that we're, cheek swab, or if it's an actual sort of health tool of some sort, or monitor or mechanism. If there's benefit there, there's value. So it could very well be a bigger driver for Nova than the drug itself, the trial itself. But you don't know until you try. So as part of the value creation process is maybe a 2 or 3 headed horse versus one.
Yeah. No, look, I think usually when you have, again, Wall Street likes pure plays, so it makes sense. But we're going to see in the next couple of months, right? We're going to see once this happens, I don't know, 4 months out probably. So we're in April. So realistically, this is going to happen by September.
Well, I think, there's a process here. It's a regulatory process, a SpinCo. As much as you want to just say, hey, we're doing a SpinCo, it's basically a new listing with the exchange. So there's a process. There's there's things to be done. So it's sometimes it's a hurry up and wait with the regulatories, as we know. So
we actually,
sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, look, we had another company. One of our other companies here was a Nextech. They did a spin out of an AR business, which was a little bit of a different business. So it wasn't really. It made sense to spin that out, and actually, that stock did very well. I mean, the spin out, I think, went up like 5x from where, more 10x. I mean, like a big move from where it was priced at. So the market, if it's a pure play position, right? It's if you price it, I think it's a good opportunity, and investors were very happy. So it helped. The whole thing made sense, and we're going to find out. In the next couple of months, if we're going to see that same effect here. So,
right. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, my job, Jack, is to get the stock price higher, bring value to the company, and that's what I'm trying to do. So, we're bringing forward a technology that we feel very confident with, that we feel that it's not truly reflective of within the stock price. So
it's not nobody. I mean, I guarantee you, 99% of the shareholders don't even know about it. So it's like. They don't know it exists. So if they get it's I think it's a great thing to do. Let's get into some audience questions. Okay, sure. So Richard is asking, he's saying, okay, when I bought Nova was partly because of the 2 possible revenue possibilities. Okay, so I guess I bought it based on this. So if you spin out one of them, it seems unfair. I guess it's a question or statement. Do you want to address that?
Yeah, well, I think
you kind of did.
Yeah, well, the revenue opportunities for whether it's the psilocybin drug through our trial that we're doing, whether it's as a diagnostic tool, how do you derive value, right? So can we license the technology, right? If we license the technology, we don't lose ownership. We would get a royalty revenue stream potentially. So we haven't gotten to the sort of dynamics of how the SpinCo will generate revenue itself. Again, we're trying to bring in some other assets that will create a bigger, better swab AI, right? So we're just sort of laying the groundwork here that's saying, hey, we've got something here. We feel pretty confident as a standalone business. Well, how that business is going to generate revenue and how that affects Nova, is yet to really sort of, be determined. I think at the end of the day, revenue aside, as much as all companies want to generate revenue, we have to, as a CEO of a smaller psychedelic company, we have to stay relevant. We have to raise capital. We have to create excitement. It's sort of, sometimes it's sort of the promotion cart goes ahead of the business, the horse business here, in that, sometimes you have to sort of plan, you have to excite shareholders, because it's a tough market out there. And so we could do, we've done great things, as you know, Jack, on all these milestones, but the market just hasn't really noticed. And so this is why I'm coming on to say, hey, you know what? Take a look at Nova, take a look at the Swab AI, combine, there's some real value here. Revenue aside, revenue, if and when we ever get to revenue, which is obviously the end goal, by then, maybe a big brother swoops us up because they see the potential. So.
Yeah. And here's the thing. What's interesting is this. I mean, we've talked about this before. So there's two things happening right now, which I think investors should keep an eye on. Number one is, Nova is actually one of the, if you look at the comps, and we've showed that matrix before, it's one of the, it's probably the cheapest. I think it is the cheapest in terms of valuation of companies that are in phase 2A clinical trials. Some of them are trading at valuations of 400 million, 100 million, 300 million plus, right? And all of them are north of 100 million, right? Nova market cap is 8 million. In my opinion, again, I'm not making any price projections or whatever, but you have this gap. It's like a 10x basically. If Nova just closed that gap where it trades at the bottom of where its peers are, you have potentially 100 million valuation. The stock, right now valuation is 8. So that's, in my opinion, that's a path to a 10x. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is we're seeing a couple of tailwinds happening now. So I think the psychedelic sector is waking up. We're seeing already a penny stock. In this, I mean, most of them are penny stocks, but we see this one stock, MDMA, right? That one is up. I think is up literally a 10x from January. And what do they have? I mean, not. I don't think they're much more advanced than Nova. That's a separate discussion, but it just shows you. I think that's an indicator that the market could be waking up. And one of the analysts out, I've seen a couple of analysts who were saying that they're expecting the psychedelic sector to heat up really 2024, which is 6-9 months away, because some of the key, the drugs that have been anticipated by some of the companies that are in that 400 million valuation, they're going to be coming out with some key data. You have some of the pivotal trials are going to be coming out with data around then. So things are moving forward here. And again, like I always like to say, we want to be, as Wayne Gretzky says, we don't chase the puck. You want to go where the puck is.
Yeah, no.
And,
but I think just what you mentioned, that one company there, my understanding is that their stock has had I watch stocks in the whole sector here, and they've had an amazing run of late, and it's primarily on the fact that Australia has opened the door here for the use of psilocybin and MDMA for drug-resistant depression. That's prescribed through a psychiatrist. So, I think with Australia sort of opening that door slightly to the use of psilocybin, the world is going to start taking notice. And this is a very defined, a very narrow, limited indication that Australia is open the door for. But what if that is of benefit? What's the next door they'll open? So I can tell you that Nova is looking at opportunities in Australia. I think that's again, with a smaller team, it's we can only do so much here, but we definitely are having discussions with companies that are in Australia, doing business in Australia. How can we help? So
okay, so Australia,
and on just sort of a side note here, as we see the data coming from our clinical trial, which we're still in the recruitment phase of, if and when the data proves to be positive, why wouldn't we go to Australia for a sort of phase 2B or what have you, right? So Australia is really opening the door for not only doing work in Canada but also Australia, and then Australia is giving a lot of tax benefits for doing business there too. So it's something that companies are doing, and the market is starting to take notice.
Okay, and I think it's so I think that, this is part of the strategy that Marvin alluded to, was the idea is to first get approval with the Fragile X indication, right? And based on the way the clinical trial stuff, everything else, it should be, again, we're not, we don't know what's going to happen ultimately, but you have it set where you have a high probability of things are set up to hopefully to work, right? If everything works out, right? The clinical data, everything is very positive, right? So if you can, and also I think one of the things he said was, if you get really strong data, maybe there is an accelerated pathway to approval. I don't know, sympathetic. There's a bunch of FDA pathways, so it's not going to take 5 years. It might only take a year or whatever. There's different pathways to get accelerated
Well,
approval.
again, keep in mind, and I sort of belabored the point in our original interview is that, having the orphan drug designation, gives us that first to market advantage where, provided the data is robust, we can on a compassionate level say, hey, go to the FDA or Health Canada and say there's no current drug available for this disease. We have something here. It should be fast tracked, right? And then that's where the real sort of upside, comes into play here. And you mentioned other sort of, we don't talk about it, and it's something that is done though is the whole off-label use, but that's different topic.
And that, I think, to me, from the investor side, that's really the whole. I mean, this is the whole, what the whole pharma drug business is about is you go after this real niche, narrow bullseye, right? You show some efficacy, you show some safety. I shouldn't say some. You show efficacy, safety. Yeah, so yeah. And then from there, you can you have this potential for off-label use because again, the data gets published in all these medical journals, these scientific journals, which all these doctors get. And if they see this, a lot of times doctors kind of put two and two together, and they say, hey, this might work for this situation, right? Again, the main thing they're concerned about is the toxicity, right? So there's no toxicity, this might make sense, right? And then if you can go into off-label, then label expansion. Now you mentioned this Australia thing, which we've never really talked about. Australia is allowing the use of psilocybin for psychiatrists. Who prescribes psychiatrists? I mean, who they can prescribe?
Yeah, so only psychiatrists have the ability to, I guess, prescribe. And so they announced this in February, and I believe in July is when they sort of kick off this program. So from now to July, I guess psychiatrists have the ability to sign up, giving them sort of the ability to provide this drug treatment for their sort of drug-resistant depression. Again, where are they going to get that material? Who's going to provide it? There's a few players out there, companies that have the ability, and we have the ability to sort of chase down this opportunity. So we're having discussions. We haven't mentioned anything yet, but it's certainly something we're looking at as another value driver.
Okay, so potentially you could be supplying the psilocybin for the Australian market.
We're just having discussions. It just we have through our, as the market knows, we've got a manufacturing patent through our manufacturing partner, and then we've used our proprietary synthetic psilocybin API in our capsules that we're using. And so together with the TIPT out of Toronto, we've been able to take the API, put it within the capsule as a formulation, 1.5 milligram dosage for our Health Canada trial. So we've got the pieces to put together the opportunity to look at the the Australian market and other markets down the road, if that be the case.
And again, once you have one market opens up, a lot of people, it's usually which is the first domino to fall, so to speak. So you have Australia, then it may be other countries, I don't know, in Europe and Latin America, etc. Canada. You have
and it's interesting because Australia, we're sort of brethrens,
related,
right? Commonwealth brethrens here. So whether it's Canada taking the next step there, who knows? But listen, it's becoming more and more of an acceptable treatment, and we're looking at how we can be involved.
Okay, so let's get into some other questions here.
Sure.
Okay, so back to the phase 2A clinical trial, which is the big news that we're waiting for, right? So the idea is this: you got the approval to start the trial, and now the patient recruiting is starting, and so we got questions about that. Have you enrolled the first patients? Enrolled if not having? Okay, what's first? Wait, what's going on?
Yeah. So the quick answer is no. So KGK Science, our CRO partner that's basically shepherding this process for us, is currently marketing, evaluating, assessing potential recruiters or recruiting patients. So, there's quite whether you go to our website, there's a link to the questionnaire. There's or KGK provides the link. Either way, there's there's a bit of a process to a vetting process. Make sure that
Right.
candidate is suitable. So again, keep in mind that we're not just going after a huge dragnet indication like depression, where it'll be a lot easier to get clients or patients. Fragile X is a rare disease. We focused in the Greater Toronto area, so it might take a little while to get the first one. Maybe it'll take a while to get 1, 2, 3. It's going to take a little while. So patients, not
And you mentioned
shareholders
that,
are.
and you mentioned that last time we spoke, is that the recruiting is starting, but it's probably going to be, it's not going to happen this week. It's probably the first patient may not be for 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. I don't know.
Listen, it could happen today. It's just
Right.
that we've got to market it. We've got to through our
Right.
our discussions, and whether it's shareholders that are listening, make sure they spread the word. It's all about marketing. It's about we're going, whether we tell the Fragile X Society in the U.S. and in Canada, social media. We're out there sort of trying to do our best to
So
let individuals.
yeah, I mean, I think the good news is because it's this kind of rare disease that's a relatively small community that if people know that there's something out there, there's a clinical trial, the word gets out quickly, right? Because again, you have these medical journals. We're expecting we should have something. We can't put it relatively.
I can't put a date, but we're actively recruiting. We're actively vetting potential candidates.
I think this is what we talked about. So spin-out ratio, we're not on the spin-out of the AI diagnostics. When is that going to be determined?
Well, I think it'll be determined once we have a better understanding on the value of SpinCo. So that's down the road. I think we wanted to bring it to the shareholders' attention that, hey, we've got this technology we feel very good about, and we want to sort of take it out from the out from the dark and bring it to the light. We want to sort of have it more of a bigger part of the Nova value proposition. Yeah. So too early to tell.
Okay, great question from Salmani, basically saying, okay, so what kind of news flow can we expect between today, and when that first patient is enrolled in the phase 2A trial?
Well, listen, when it comes to news flow, like I challenge anyone to look at other companies with a similar market cap and what have they done for news flow, and what they're doing for news flow. How significant is that news flow?
That's there's a lot of companies that have news flow, but significant material news. That's the nail on the head. Yeah. So
it's like there's a lot of fluff out there, and I'm not here to bash other companies, but the news that we put out is typically solid news that is relevant to us moving our science forward. So news flow coming up is going to be first patient recruited. That's going to be a huge sort of next step for us. Further updates on Swab AI for sure. If there's something else that pops up, then obviously whether it's Australia related or something else that we're looking at, news flow will I'm always challenged by shareholders. News flow, and Jack, you love news flow. Everyone loves news flow. It's just kind of like hurry up. You put out news yesterday.
You guys are very conservative. It's like you're not like you're not actually for what it's worth. Nova's been very conservative. It's not a hype thing where they're putting out stuff, and it's been really conservative. I mean, so whenever you put out stuff, it's material, substantive.
Well, conservative aside, I think the news we do put up, we're fairly consistent. There are some, we're not dealing in something that is, we can just kind of pull something out of the hat and say, hey, this is science, right? This is something that we can't manufacture out of thin air. There's certain steps on the Health Canada trial that we have to adhere to, and it's I know it's hurry up and wait sometimes, but it is what it is,
The
unfortunately.
reality is, look, the company, I think a lot of investors, because again, the whole news flow cycle has been kind of beholden to, getting the approvals and all this, and that's what all the news has been about. It's this approval, that approval, where the process, all that stuff, and it does take it however long it takes for all these things to happen. But the reality is that everything that Nova has said, right, they've delivered. Like from the first day that you guys showed up on our program, everything has been
Whether it takes a little longer than anticipated, I know sometimes the
It always
timelines,
takes any company. I've never seen anybody do something quicker. Almost never.
Well, when you're dealing with government agencies,
And
usually
science,
more often than not, it takes a little longer. And you're dealing with a Schedule 1 drug that we have to move from one country to another. There's all these little implications that come up, and headaches and hurdles. And
I think the reality is this. The reality is that this is the important, this is kind of the nuance here, is that investors, everybody wants news flow. I'm crazy about the news flow thing, but the reality is that the company has delivered on everything it said. So it's actually credible. We've seen other companies. I'm sure people watching this, they can, we've had other companies that have said, hey, with this, and then they never delivered, or it was all fluff. Here we actually have, we're going to the phase 2A trial. Now we were expecting it to happen, earlier, sooner, but it's just what it is, right? So that's.
I think the challenge is that trying to let shareholders know, keep shareholders informed, and we do that through news. We do that through our newsletters, and listen, if you're not part of our monthly newsletter subscriber channel, then by all means go to our website. That way you're informed through that medium as well, social media. But listen, it's just these things take some time.
But at the flip side is this. The flip side is that's where the stock is an opportunity right now, right? And really, the company hasn't, it's been pretty much in this range for the last 12 months, and which is actually pretty decent considering we've been in a pretty vicious bear market. Stock is pretty much in this kind of bouncing around between what is it, a nickel and it's Canadian.
So it bounces between 5 and 10 cents, and the frustrating
bouncing around in this range. The charts actually, if I may say, the chart's actually looking good because we got a breakout above that 50 to 200-day moving average, which is a bullish indicator. But yeah, so in other words, this is a stock where essentially, we're kind of waiting. I guess the market has been, waiting for, I guess, the trial to start or what. I don't know what the catalyst is, but the thing is, we are seeing the sector starting to move, which I think is a positive, because again, based on what I'm looking at, again, this is my opinion, not official company, whatever. Is look, if we have the stock MDMA, right? This MDMA, which is basically, I don't know, they have any revenues? I don't know. But they're basically doing this psilocybin in Australia. But that thing is taken off from. Let me see. I just pulled this up. It went from like 4 cents from 3 cents or something to 40. Almost 50 cents, right? I mean, crazy. The market cap is there is probably $50 million, right? Now, if you compare the two, I mean, are they in phase 2A clinical trials? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think they're.
I'm not aware of them doing anything on the science side. As far as I know, they're supplying psilocybin and MDMA to the marketplace. So yeah, listen, here, not to bash other companies. I'm just here to.
No. But I'm
they're
the comp. I'm showing the comp.
No. So strictly from a valuation standpoint, one has to just say, hey, why is one better than the other from a valuation standpoint? And so it's a head scratcher for sure. And collectively as a group, we just keep our nose down to the grindstone and continue to deliver on news, on milestones, push the science forward, and at some point the market will react.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's the reality. If you have the fundamentals, the market at some point does wake up. And again, that's what I see as the opportunity, because you have this big valuation gap. You have this valuation gap of where Nova is now, which is around 8 million valuation, where some of the peers are, which is 100 million plus, 400 million plus. In the case of this one, MDMA is 40 million. So there are multiple paths for this stock to be potentially a multi-bagger. Now, again, I'm not saying it's going to be him, but again, if you look at the comps, everything else, and what closes that valuation gap is going to be, I mean, at this point, it's going to be, at some point, the market is going to wake up, because we're getting the word out on the stock. The company's putting out, news, meeting milestones, and that's why there's an opportunity. There's a short window. There's a short window of opportunity that's open, and then it closes. We don't know when it's going to close. That's the opportunity for investors to get in now, before that gap closes. And again, if it closes, that means the stock becomes a multi-bagger potential.
Yeah. I'll let you do the selling part of the stock. For me, it's as much as I want to see the stock higher, it's sometimes it's there's greater forces. Whether it's the macro conditions, where people, the small cap market is struggling. If it's not just psychedelics, it's all small caps. But again, we're pushing forward with the science, with some catalysts, bring shareholder value. And at some point, the market will take notice.
Fantastic. Okay, Will, on that note, I want to thank you for giving us the update, and we'll catch up with you next during the next news announcement.
Yeah. And my understanding is that next week, I think you're going to schedule Dr. Hausman. He can get a deeper dive on the mRNA. So, let's get your viewers out there, and if they want to learn more on that side, I invite them to watch that. So it's quite fascinating. It's interesting. The opportunity is massive. It's just we wanted to kind of unleash the narrative that we've got this patent. We've got this, our patent pending technology, and we want to kind of bring it to the forefront here. So excellent. Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you everybody for joining, and hopefully we'll see everybody next week with Dr. Marvin for the update. Thank you again.
Great. Ciao.